Hello, I'm John Payce, and welcome to my talk on how your players can make you a better developer. Short introduction to me, I'm a senior gameplay programmer at Jagex, but as with a lot of jobs in the industry, that's just a job title. I do an awful lot of design as well and engine development. I work on RuneScape, and I make lots of cool combat stuff. I'm one of the main designers for the combat in RuneScape. And I love making cool stuff for our players. I really get a kick out of just handing it over to them and seeing them make it their own. It's why I go to work in the morning, really. And I absolutely adore interacting with our community. I love designing with them, and having that dual ownership is something that's really awesome and special. And I love what we have with our players. A quick summary of what we're going to cover today. The first one is, why does this approach work for us at Jagex? After that, it will be the methods we use to converse with our player base, how we convert unconstructive replies, something like "your game sucks," into actionable feedback. A bit of advice again for how to deal with toxic feedback, because it is a thing and we should address it. And the last thing will be, is this approach right for you? So why do we do it? The first thing is that once your game is out there, your players generally know your game better than you do, or at least they have a unique perspective and one that is really, really useful for you. We have players that spend 16 hours a day on our game for years on end. They really, really do offer an awful lot of value, and their perspective means a lot to us. When we share regularly, we can share quick feedback on smaller chunks of work. This is the fail fast and early principle. We make heavy use of it right from the concepting stage right through to the how we're designing and implementing and sharing prototypes. And this just helps us get to where we want to be a lot faster and ditch stuff that the players say it just won't work. We also establish a really nice rapport with our player base. The more you speak to them and the more you converse with them, the easier it is to have these discussions with them. The more receptive they'll be to answering your questions, and also how they answer will slowly get better over time. The more they learn how you want your feedback heard, they're more likely to actually give that to you the more you speak to them. And it also helps you in that you kind of align the way you're thinking with how your player base is thinking through this regular dialogue. When you're starting with a blank slate, you'll find that your designs will start to converge a lot more onto something that your players actually want to see a lot faster, because you don't have to ask as many questions because it's already ingrained. You're not recovering the same ground. On another note is that in general, and this is your players, they will trust a face and people a lot more. So they'll trust the developer a lot more than they will kind of the game or the company or brand that you're representing. It's just human nature to prefer a face. For the company, it increases our outreach. It gives us free marketing effectively. The more developers we have on there, each developer has their own unique style of presenting on social media, and that style leads to different audiences and increases our outreach. We have a massive social media outreach at Jagex, and it's free marketing. Why not? And on a personal level, I find it very rewarding. I love talking to our players, absolutely adore them, and who wouldn't want to speak to the people that are most passionate about the things that you make? So how do we do it? The first thing you're going to want to draw up is something I call the contract. So this is just for you. This isn't anything between any like your workplace or your player base. It's just for you to kind of keep you on track. And it's all you need to define is what is the focus of your account that you're making, what you will talk about and what you won't talk about. Just those 3 questions. This will help keep the narrative of your social media accounts consistent, and the people that follow you, the people that want to talk to you, they know exactly what to expect from you, and they won't get any kind of surprises later on. So here's my contract, just a quick run over. So the focus of my account is combat in RuneScape. As I said, I'm one of the main designers of the combat in RuneScape, so that's the focus of my account. I will talk about RuneScape gameplay, combat design, and the awesome things that I've seen from the player base. I love just kind of reprojecting all of the awesome stuff that they do. I won't talk about microtransactions. Regardless of my personal feelings of microtransactions, it is a controversial topic in the games industry, and I don't work directly on it, so I'm the wrong person to have that dialogue with. I won't talk about my personal life. I like a disconnect between my personal life and my work life. I won't talk about politics, religion, or any other heavily opinionated, controversial topics. My social media accounts are not the place to have those discussions, and the players shouldn't my views on them. I shouldn't project onto my player base. And I won't provide account help. I will direct them towards where they can get account help, but I can't help their accounts get unbanned, and I will just say that to the players. I can't help you, but this person can. The next thing I would suggest you do is you make an alias for yourself. The contract that you've written up will not be your personality. So creating this avatar of yourself will help you kind of disconnect you and the kind of person that you're trying to portray. Again, it will help you disconnect your work and your home life. This will become very useful to you. It will protect you from things such as doxing, which is where people take the information that you've put on your social media account, use this to search the internet for more information, collate all that information, and then post it again on the internet. This is rather nasty when should it happen to you, so please do protect yourself from this. Make an alias. At Jagex, we use mod names, and I am mod Payce. So if you see that on social media, you're talking to me. So what social media platform should you use? In general, the rule is use the social media platform that suits your communication style. Each different social media platform will communicate subtly different. I would go out there and check them out and find which ones align to how you want to communicate and how you want to have dialogue with your players. You can choose more than one. I would start with one, because your aim with these social media platforms is to have an open dialogue with your player base. And if you're running that dialogue over multiple social media platforms, it can get quite a lot of work and quite hectic. So I'd start with one, but you can have more than one. At Jagex, we use quite a lot of social media platforms: Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, Reddit, and Discord. I use Twitter mostly. I use Discord for some smaller communities, and I'll use Reddit as well. One thing I would note is when you do sign up to a social media platform, please make sure that you do not link your personal account and your work account. Some social media platforms do like to sneakily do this for you. I believe when I signed up for Discord, my personal Spotify immediately linked to the Discord, and I had to disconnect that link. So just please be aware that some places will try and automatically link these things. It's what they do by their nature. Once you've set this up, the tone that you should have is a friendly tone, but you should at all times remain professional. You want to be friendly so that you're approachable, but you are an avatar for the game or the company that you are making. You should remain professional throughout. I like to have the adage that you should aim to engage with positive value for both you and the player. So if you're not getting out of it what you set up the social media account for, or the player isn't getting any value out of you, then that's kind of dialogue that you probably shouldn't be having. So try and maintain a friendly but professional tone. Some suggestions on how to start dialogue. Obviously, it's not all just going to come straight to you. You need to post things. You need to let players know that you're there. You should show off teasers. Players absolutely love this. You should ask lots of questions that your players aimed about learning them. When I first started my Twitter account, I had a daily #pie question, and I learned so much about my player base that I didn't even think I knew. It's very good. You should only promote information that's relative to your audience. So remember, keep to that contract. Your aim when you're posting is to start dialogue. So those questions are there to start dialogue, and you should always have that aim whenever you're posting. Please use pictures. On social media, the attention span of people scrolling through the tons of posts that they'll see is incredibly short. There's no way they can read it all. Quite often, I'll just add a Giphy to something just to kind of catch their eye, and it's much more likely that they'll read what you're saying. type once and read 3 times is something I would like to reiterate an awful lot. Once something is out on the internet, you cannot take it back. You can delete it off your personal feed, but all of these social media platforms mirror everything everywhere. There is no surefire way to delete something from the internet, I'm afraid. So please type it once and then read it back 3 times and edit, read it 3 times, go through that cycle before you hit that post button. Don't spam your audience with anything that isn't relevant. They do not want to know that you've had your 3rd avocado on toast that day. That's probably not why they're following you. So please keep to that contract, and do get involved in your community. Don't, do reply to stuff that they post. Show them you play in their game. If you play their game, do get ingrained in that community. It's all about kind of that mindset shifting over to that kind of player focused mindset, and getting involved can really, really help there. So you've posted, and then the players are posting back at you and you're getting that feedback. How should you handle that feedback? Well, the first thing I would like to note here is whenever someone's saying something to you, it is an opinion, and the opinions are the summation of someone's experience. An opinion isn't just a statement in and of itself. There's been a journey there that you need to kind of understand. And when you understand the journey, the thing that's said to you has a lot more context. Understanding someone's worldview is a talent, and it's something that you'll slowly get over time. But when the main point of this is someone will say something to you and it's because of all of the things that's happened to them, it's not necessarily this small capture, and you should approach it that way. Also, learning who you're talking to goes an awful long way. If I say create a piece of PvP content and want some feedback on it, if someone who likes to just chop trees all day on RuneScape gives me some feedback on PvP content, it's going to have a very different meaning to someone who is, say, end game ranked PvP player in RuneScape. They are very different. Even though they might say the same thing, the weight of what they're saying and how they're saying it will change over time. But all in all, this feedback can generally be broken down into 3 different categories. You'll get constructive feedback, unconstructive feedback, and in some cases, toxic feedback. So the constructive replies are the ones that you really, really want. It's what you want from all of the players that engage with you, really. And this is easy to convert into actionable feedback because this will be of the form, here is my opinion, and here is why, and here is what I suggest. That's what you're going for. When you get this feedback, I would definitely suggest that you promote and engage with this sort of feedback heavily. You almost want to social engineer your followers in how you want them to speak to you. And the best way to do that, especially on a social media platform, is to heavily promote this to engage so that players think, oh, when I talk to the developer in that way, I'm more likely to get feedback back. I'm more likely to get dialogue back. So please do promote constructive replies. Please do, push it out there and engage with it heavily. Another thing that I would say about constructive replies is note that just because something is said nice and well formed doesn't not necessarily mean that they are correct. So please do take the time to break that down and analyze it and put it in the correct boxes for how you want to take that feedback. It's okay. It's also okay to disagree with what they're saying. You can totally do that, but please, in your replies, please reply to educate rather than educate and debate rather than demean. Don't make them feel belittled. They've taken the time to speak to you, and they put an awful lot of thought into the replies that they give you, especially if it's a constructive one. So please do give them value as well. So please reply to educate, not demean. When you get unconstructive feedback, this is the sort of thing. So my example throughout this will just be the simple case of your game sucks or your update sucks. And on face value, these things don't really have much value, and they're often written off as toxic. But I find that if someone has gone onto your social media account and gone, your game sucks, I don't like it, it actually means that they're quite invested in your game. They've taken extra time out of their day to tell you this, and quite often these sorts of replies will come from your most engaged player base. So they do have value, but it's not face value. And we need to put in a little bit of work to get that value out. Fans by definition are fanatical, right? And they will be speaking from their emotions, not their heads. So they'll be telling you how they're feeling, but they won't be necessarily be able to tell you why they're feeling that way. And through dialogue, we can get that out of them. And often this unconstructive feedback will just come from poor communication. They don't really, quite often, they won't even know how to communicate what they want to say, but they do want to say it. So we can do some things to kind of push it more towards the constructive feedback section. But I'd like to actually change the name of this section from unconstructive feedback to miscommunicated and malformed feedback. When you start to view it like that, then you start to view these in the light that they're actually sent to you. And as games developers out there on the internet asking for feedback, it's really on us to kind of work out what they're trying to say, what they really want to say to us. So there's a few techniques we use at Jagex in order to do this. This is primarily about changing your view on how the person is talking and then pushing the commentary towards something a bit more positive. So to help you change your view and your preconceptions of what is being said to you, because on the face of it, your game sucks isn't great. The first thing I like to say is that the players are can be like crying babies. I'm a parent, and if anyone else is a parent out there, you'll know that a baby will cry for many reasons, but the main reason why they're crying at you is just to tell you that they're uncomfortable or they don't like what's going on. And it's on you as the parent to kind of turn around and say, oh, okay, I need to change your diaper, or I need to feed you, or you just want a cuddle, you just want some attention. And much like that, players will project how they're feeling, and as developers we can help them kind of turn that how you're feeling into constructive feedback. Another thing is that when we read something on the internet, and in general, we will read it using our inner voice, and that means that we are reading it. It's us, but we're games developers. Like when we say something like your game sucks, we'll have thought an awful lot about it. We'll have analyzed it, broken it down, and we really do mean that this game sucks. But actually, the person talking to you might not might probably hasn't gone through that level of detail, and will need that help. So you kind of need to depersonalize it. You need to stop your inner voice from reading it. And the way we do that at Jagex is quite fun. It's we just have a silly voice that we read everything in. Every developer has their own different silly voice. My silly voice sounds an awful lot like a stereotypical nerd. I'm not going to do it because it's not pleasant. But it could just be like, your game sucks. Your game sucks. Just have fun with it. Completely depersonalize it, and you'll find that you'll approach these comments completely differently. You'll even have a little bit of a giggle to yourself, because an awful lot of the more complicated versions of your game sucks are quite fun to speak in these voices. But honestly, try this, and you'll find that you'll start to change your mindset with these kinds of comments. And the last one is to try and empathize with how the player might have got to that comment. The evolution of combat, an update that we did 5 years ago to our to RuneScape's combat system, is a great example of this. We took RuneScape's click and wait system and we changed it to a more modern approach with abilities and cooldowns and action bars, and the players really didn't like it. We got an awful lot of vitriol and an awful lot of your game sucks and a lot more colorful language. And if we just kind of took that stuff at face value, we would have just ripped it out of the game, but it's still in the game 5 years later. And through speaking to our players, we found out that, what, RuneScape is this place that they come when the world's too stressful. It's their little escape. It's their world. And we mess with that world. We mess with the day-to-day gameplay, and we mess with how they want to relax. Because now they can't just click and relax and wait on something. They have to get full lean forward gameplay out of it. And the solution to this actually came from our player base, which is an auto-firing ability system, but it saved the update, and it's actually something like 80% of our player base use this auto-firing system. So thank you to that player who gave us that feedback, because it was invaluable. So what's the best way to move forward to engage with this kind of comment? You want to move towards the dialogue of, I feel this way because of these things, and this is how I'd like to see it solved. So the first thing you reply to your game sucks is, oh, Why do you feel that way? Hopefully they'll give you a constructive feedback back, but you can have a bit more dialogue. After that, you go, oh, okay, now I understand, because you've understood why they feel that way, and you get a bit more objective feedback back. And then you say, how would you suggest we fix it? So they give you some suggestions how to fix it. These are often not great, to be honest with you. Not everyone's game designers online, let's be honest, and it is a skill, right? That's why we're all here. But these suggestions, again, the biggest suggestion from us came from the player base, so it's worth asking that question, and ultimately it makes them feel valued. It makes them feel like you genuinely care. And when they were first posting your game sucks, it was just to get that emotion across. But if you show that you care about them and their opinion, that dialogue should change over time. But responding to them can go one of three ways. You can either get the constructive feedback that you want, in which case it's a win-win for you, and you go through your promotion and engagement of that. Or you get continued unconstructive feedback, in which case it's up to you how long you want to continue that dialogue. Obviously, the longer it goes on, the less likely it is you're going to get constructive feedback. So don't spend too long on it if you keep getting unconstructive feedback. Or quite often they just won't reply to you. They just wanted to throw that comment out there to kind of affect you and to let you know, and they didn't actually care about helping solve the problem. In which case you can box that in that setting. They just wanted to be nasty, in which case move on. But on the subject of being nasty, let's talk a little bit about toxic feedback. So at some point you are likely to encounter toxic feedback. This can be from in the gauge of the more colorful ways to say your game sucks, or it can gauge all the way up to things like death threats. I've had death threats in the past. It's not nice, and it is incredibly toxic. Regardless of where on the spectrum this is, I would say, first off, do not panic. There are tools and things out there to help you, so please do not panic. Don't let it affect you in that way, and don't engage. Do not engage. Do not feed the troll. It's seriously, do not. And again, on social media platforms, engagement is the reward system, and this doesn't deserve to be rewarded. But people do have the right to dislike anything that they want to. It is a public freedom. This is a bit of pill to swallow. I don't like it either. But for instance, I have one person on Reddit that no matter what I do, doesn't matter, I could have designed the best game in the world, they will turn around and tell me it's a pile of trash. And they will try their hardest, and they go through a lot of effort. They go through a lot of effort to break down all of the different things that they really, really, really dislike. And it's his right to dislike everything that I do, and it did affect me for quite a long time. It's like, why does this person hate me? And it's just like, chances are you will have one of these, and you've just got to kind of make your peace with, you know what, the world is filled with a vast spectrum of people, and someone's got to dislike you at some point. So you make your peace with the fact that they do have the right to tell you they don't like something. However, people do not have the right to abuse you. It is not okay. It is absolutely 100% not okay to send you abuse. Please remember this. It is not okay. If someone does send you abuse, if it's serious, please immediately keep a record and report it to someone. Report it immediately. It is, in fact, illegal to send abuse online in the UK. You can report them to police, and they can get into trouble for it. And if you find something, if it's not serious, but it is affecting you on a personal level, then please do take action and look after yourself. That is the most important thing. Look after yourself. You are the most important person in this world. Please look after yourself first. To aid you in this, first, if something's toxic to the point of affecting you, then follow these steps. Report them so that they can not affect other people. Then immediately block them from your social media account so they can stop affecting you, and then delete that comment or tweet or whatever from your timeline. This is to stop you from obsessing about it. You will want to read it 100 times. You'll go over in your mind. Please delete it so you can't come back to it, and it massively shortens the lifespan of how long it will affect you. If you're still finding it's affecting you, then please do step away from social media for a while. I've had times when the whole of Reddit has told me I don't deserve my job from one bad design decision. And believe me, a couple of weeks away does wonders for your mindset. A different perspective works absolutely wonders. Do not blame yourself for how others behave. If someone sent you something toxic and inflammatory, it is not your fault. Do not blame yourself. They are the toxic ones, not you. Sure, you might have done something, maybe you made a poor design decision and that's why they're sending it to you, but you do not deserve this, do not deserve what they're sending you. It is not your fault that you are getting this toxic feedback back. Do not blame yourself. Make a positivity wall. So save all the nice comments that players send to you. It is genuinely a thing that it takes 1,000 positives to get rid of a negative. Make a positivity wall. I have one. It really, really helps me when I get this kind of feedback back to remind me that, you know what, I do good work and people do appreciate what I do. And just because one or two nasty people on the internet tell me that it's not, doesn't stop me from being good at what I do. And the last one is don't internalize it. Don't go over and over and over about it in your head. You are not alone. You are not the first person, and you will not be the last person to get this kinds of toxic feedback back. We all get it, and it all affects us. It affects even today. I've been on social media for years, and they still affect me in some form. So shift that shame of like, oh, I shouldn't be feeling this way. I should be hardened against this. No, don't feel shamed. Speak to someone. We all feel bad when we get this feedback. Every single last one of us. Please speak to someone. It will help an awful lot. And we all need to look after each other as well in this field. Talking to others about how these things affect you and what you do to help cope with it doesn't just help you, it helps other people. We should all be kind of leaning on each other in terms of coping with this toxicity, and it will be a much less lonely world, and we'll all have a lot more fun doing what we should be doing, and can help get past any kind of toxicity that gets sent our way. Another thing is that social media is public domain. So look out for each other. If you see someone else having a bad time, see someone else receiving toxic comments, then don't wait to be approached. Ask them how they're doing, because they might be internalizing it. So please do approach each other. Another thing that I've had to tell myself in the time is that a good workplace will not rate you on what the players think of you. So don't think, oh, the players have sent all this negative feedback, I'm going to lose my job. That's not going to happen. Your job will rate you on the 100 good design decisions that you did before you did that one bad design decision that caused all of this. And 100 is greater than 1. We know this. So do not think that a workplace will rate you based on player opinion. And if they do, it's probably not a good place to work anyway, to be perfectly honest with you. They should rate you on you. And the last one's a bit of a rally call in that we all need to kind of stand up and say it's not okay. The more people that turn around to our player bases en masse and say, you know what, this is not okay to treat the developers this way. If everyone in your department sees this toxicity and turns around and goes, this is not okay, I'm not happy with this, and we all turn around and say, no, I'm not having it. It's not okay. Yeah, we understand that you feel passionate about this, but it is not okay. You cannot speak to us like this. We'll get closer to winning that battle of moving the dialogue to be much more constructive and better. That all said, is this approach right for you? Really, you've got to ask yourself a bunch of questions. First one is, how much weight do you place on player opinion and feedback? We have a spectrum at Jagex. Like, a lot of our designers don't like the thought of player bias and the player's way of thinking kind of pushing you in a certain direction. So if that's how you feel, then this probably isn't the right approach to you. The second is, are you willing to put in all that effort and work? You're going to be maintaining an awful lot of dialogue and trying to push things in the direction that will make it a lot easier for you to transform it into actionable feedback. But if you're not willing to put in all that effort, then again, it's probably not the right approach for you. I would suggest that you do, because it's very, very rewarding, but it's up to you. The next one is more of a personal thing, is how good are you actually at stepping back from the comments that you see at face value? If you're the sort of person that will get negative feedback back and go down into a negative spiral, and a negative spiral is something that you don't want, is this kind of self-reinforcing negativity, then you probably shouldn't poke your head into that rabbit hole, because it's not going to be healthy for you, and I wouldn't like to have sent you out into this world for it to be affecting you in that way. And the last one, again, on toxicity, is that do you have a support network around you should things go wrong, should things get overly toxic? Please do either create one or find one, or notice that you do already have one, hopefully. You will need this support network. So if you don't have that support network, then please set that up before you go on the internet. But in summary, I find that regular dialogue with my player base is incredibly rewarding. It's a lot of hard work, and in some cases it can get quite scary, but it's incredibly rewarding, and it's something that I think that we should all try and aim to do. But we do need to equip ourselves with the tools to do the job effectively, both on a personal and professional level. We need to be able to convert that feedback from unconstructive feedback to constructive feedback to actionable feedback. And we also need to be able to look after ourselves and not take an awful lot of what's said to heart. We need to look after each other. Please do speak out about how incorrect ways in which to interact with developers. It means an awful lot to all of us. And while the online world can be a scary place, it would be a very, very sad world indeed if we didn't have dialogue with our players. I almost didn't write this talk because I was worried about the level of toxicity that we're currently getting in the social media and the media coverage that it's getting. But for me, it's a lot sadder if we stop talking to our players because of a bunch of bad eggs that don't know how to talk and converse properly. It's not nice. So I would love to be in a world where we can all talk with our players openly and candidly, because we love them, really, don't we? Thank you for listening to my talk. If you have any questions, please do speak to me on Twitter on JagexPie. That's also the one where I speak to my players, so you can have a look about how I speak to the players. Or if it's something more professional, then please do go to john.payce@jagex.com. I'll pick up on that email and get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you for listening.